Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front of the biggest room he had ever seen. The walls stretched up so high that he could barely see the ceiling. Thousands of strange creatures filled the seats around him. Some looked like giant insects. Others glowed with their own light. A few were made of what looked like living crystal. All of them were staring at him. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in wars on Earth. He had seen terrible things and done terrible things. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. He was about to speak for all of humanity to aliens who could destroy Earth with a thought. The human ship U-EZA. Harmony floated outside the massive space station. It was tiny compared to the alien ships around it. Some of those ships were as big as entire cities. The humans had worked for 5 years just to build their one small diplomatic vessel, Admiral. Lisa Parker walked up to the speaking platform. She wore her best uniform. Her gray hair was pulled back neatly. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but her hand still shook slightly. The fate of the human race might depend on the next few minutes. The room fell silent. Lisa looked out at the sea of alien faces. She could feel their judgment. Most of them thought humans were primitive. Earth had only discovered faster than light travel 10 years ago. These aliens had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Lisa began. Her voice carried clearly through the room's translation system. I am Admiral Lisa Parker of Earth. I speak for all humanity today. A creature that looked like a walking tree rustled its leaves. This was normal for its species, but Lisa did not know that. She continued with her prepared speech. We come to you in peace. Humanity seeks only to join the galactic community as friends and trading partners. We offer our skills, our resources, and our friendship to all species who wish it. So far, everything was going as planned. Lisa had studied the diplomatic protocols. She knew what the Council expected to hear from new species. But now came the part that Earth's leaders had debated for months. However, Lisa said, and the room seemed to grow. Even quieter, we must be honest with you about our nature. Humans evolved as hunters on a dangerous world. We are not naturally aggressive, but we have learned to defend ourselves when threatened. Some of the aliens shifted in their seats. A few made sounds that might have been laughter. The translation system could not capture all the nuances of alien communication. Lisa took a deep breath. We ask only one thing of this great council and all the species represented here. Please do not provoke us. We prefer peace to war. We prefer cooperation to conflict. But our history shows that when humans are pushed too far, when we are forced to fight for our survival, the results are unfortunate for everyone involved. The reaction was immediate. The representative from the Zephyrian Empire, a tall being, made of living crystal, stood up. Its voice rang like breaking glass when it spoke. Is this primitive species threatening the Council? Other aliens began making noises. Some sounded angry. Others sounded amused. The translation system worked overtime to convert dozens of different languages into words Lisa could understand. Threat, primitive, arrogant, foolish. These words came through clearly from multiple species. Commander Ben Taylor stood near the back of the human delegation. He was Jake's military advisor, a quiet man who noticed everything. Ben pulled out a small device and began recording which species reacted negatively to Lisa's words. This information might be important. Later, Lisa raised her hand for silence. The room gradually quieted down. We make no threats. We simply request understanding. Humanity has no desire to harm anyone. We hope we never have to defend ourselves. But we wanted to be honest about what we are capable of if forced to fight. The Coven Hegemony's ambassador, a creature that looked like a giant slug with arms, made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. What could one small species possibly do to threaten civilizations that have existed for millennia? Dr. Susan Clark stepped forward. She was Earth's best expert on alien biology. Susan had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. She activated a holographic display that showed human anatomy and biological data. "If I may," Susan said politely, "I would like to share some information about human biology with the Council's Science Division." The display showed images of human muscles, human brains, human reaction times. Susan explained how humans evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. She showed how human adrenaline systems worked, how humans could fight through injuries that would disable other species. "Humans are unusual among intelligent species," Susan continued. "Most civilizations evolved from prey animals or social creatures that avoided conflict. Humans evolved from pack hunters. We are one of the few species that became intelligent, while remaining apex predators." The alien scientists listened with more interest than the politicians had shown. Several asked questions about human psychology, human group behavior, human responses to threats. Dr. Vex, a tentacled creature from the Sirius system, spoke in a bubbling voice. "These adaptations are interesting from a scientific perspective, but hardly threatening to advanced civilizations. We have seen many predator species join the galactic community. They all adapted to peaceful coexistence." Susan nodded politely. "Of course, Doctor. We hope to adapt to peaceful coexistence as well. We are simply providing complete information about our species, as requested in the diplomatic protocols." But some of the aliens were not satisfied with polite answers. The Coven ambassador spoke again. "Perhaps these humans need to learn their place in the galactic order. New species are always given probationary membership with appropriate restrictions." Lisa had expected this. Earth's intelligence services had studied galactic politics for years. They knew that new species were typically limited in their expansion, their military development, and their trade rights. These restrictions often lasted for centuries. "We understand the Council's caution," Lisa replied. "Humanity is willing to accept reasonable restrictions during our probationary period." The Council's chief administrator, an ancient being called a keeper that looked like a floating jellyfish, announced the terms. Humanity would be allowed to establish colonies in one small sector of space. They could maintain a defensive fleet of no more than 50 ships. They could trade only with Council-approved species under Council supervision. Lisa accepted these terms on behalf of Earth. The human delegation bowed respectfully to the Council and prepared to leave. The first contact mission was officially complete. As they walked back to their ship, Commander Taylor caught up with Captain Morrison. "Jake, did you notice how they reacted to the Admiral's warning?" Jake nodded grimly. "Most of them thought it was funny. They think we're just another primitive species trying to act tough." "That's what worries me," Ben said quietly. "They're not taking us seriously. They heard the warning, but they didn't listen to it." Dr. Clark joined them as they entered the Harmony's shuttle bay. The scientific community was more interested in our data, but even they seemed to think our evolutionary history was just an academic curiosity. Lisa was the last to board. She looked back at the massive Council station one more time. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species surrounded them. Each one represented a civilization older and more advanced than humanity. "Admiral," Jake asked as the shuttle doors closed, "do you think they understood what you were trying to tell them?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "No, Jake, I don't think they did. We told them not to provoke us. We explained why. We gave them fair warning. But they heard it as either a joke or an empty threat." The Harmony undocked from the Council station and began its journey back to Earth. The human delegation would report that first contact was successful. Humanity was now a probationary member of the Galactic Council, but as their ship jumped to faster than light speed, Lisa made a private log entry that would later become famous in galactic history. Personal log, Admiral Lisa Parker. The aliens have been warned. We tried to be honest about our nature. We asked them politely not to push us too far. They chose not to listen. I hope for everyone's sake that they learn to take our warnings seriously before it's too late. But I fear they will need a demonstration before they understand what we tried to tell them today. The message was clear, but the galaxy was not ready to hear it. They would learn soon enough what humans meant when they said, "Please do not provoke us." 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. The humans had been busy during those years. They built 17 colonies in their assigned sector of space. Each colony was different, but all of them were successful. New Oregon was the crown jewel of human expansion. The planet had rich soil, perfect weather, and plenty of water. The human colonists grew food there that fed 3 entire star systems. Other alien species came from far away just to trade for human crops. Colonel Ryan Davis stood in his office looking out at the golden wheat fields. The crops stretched to the horizon under the planet's twin suns. It was hard to believe that this peaceful farming world might be in danger. Ryan had been a soldier before becoming a colonial administrator. He knew how to read intelligence reports. For the past month, those reports had been troubling. Ships had been spotted at the edge of the system. Unknown vessels that did not respond to communication attempts. Lieutenant Kelly Brown knocked on his office door. She commanded the colony's small defense force. 30 Marines to protect 8,000 colonists. It seemed like enough for a farming world in peaceful space. "Sir," Kelly said as she entered, "we have contact. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." Ryan followed her to the communication center. The main screen showed space around New Oregon. Red dots marked the incoming ships. Ryan counted them twice to make sure he was seeing correctly. 200 ships. All of them were painted in the black and red colors of the Vrakoth Raiders. The Vrakoth were known throughout the galaxy as slavers and pirates. They attacked weak civilizations and took prisoners to sell in illegal markets. The Galactic Council had tried to stop them for decades, but the Vrakoth moved too fast and hid too well. "Sir," the communications officer said, "they're broadcasting." On all frequencies, an ugly face appeared on the screen. The Vrakoth had thick gray skin and small red eyes. Their mouths were full of sharp teeth. This one wore the uniform of a fleet commander. "Humans of New Oregon," the Vrakoth said in broken galactic standard. "I am Commander Grex. You will surrender immediately. Prepare for boarding and processing. Resistance will result in death." Ryan looked at Kelly. She was young, maybe 25 years old. She had trained at Earth's military academy, but she had never seen real combat. None of the colonists had. "What are your orders, sir?" Kelly asked. Ryan thought about the thousands of families living on New Oregon. Children playing in the fields. Farmers working to feed the galaxy. Good people who had come here to build a better life. "Open a channel," he told the communications officer. Commander Grex's face appeared on screen again. He was smiling, showing his sharp teeth. "This is Colonel Ryan Davis, administrator of New Oregon Colony," Ryan said calmly. "Please withdraw your ships immediately. We do not wish to harm you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Grex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Defend? You have 30 soldiers against my 200 ships. You have farming equipment against my weapons. Surrender now, and I will kill only half of you." "I'm giving you one final warning," Ryan said. "Please leave our system. We do not want to fight you." This time Grex definitely laughed. "Stupid humans. You think you can threaten the Vrakoth? We have raided 1,000 worlds. We have enslaved 1,000,000 beings. You are nothing." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, Ryan could see the Vrakoth ships moving toward the planet. They would be in orbit within 2 hours. Kelly looked worried. "Sir, what are we going to do? We can't fight 200 ships." Ryan walked over to a secure terminal. He entered his command codes and activated a communication system that most of the colonists did not know existed. "All citizens of New Oregon," Ryan announced over the colony-wide communication system. "This is your administrator. We are about to be attacked by hostile forces. Please implement Protocol 7 immediately. This is not a drill." Across the planet, the colonists heard the announcement. They did not panic. They did not run. Instead, they began implementing plans they had practiced many times. Captain Steve Mitchell was working in the main agricultural processing center when the announcement came. Steve was officially a retired engineer who had come to New Oregon to grow vegetables. Unofficially, he was the planet's chief defense architect. "Well," Steve said to his assistant, "I guess it's time to show them what we really built here." He walked to a control panel hidden behind a false wall. The panel looked like it controlled irrigation systems. Steve entered his codes and activated the real function. Across New Oregon, the irrigation systems began to change. Metal panels slid away from what looked like water pipes. Missile launchers rose from underground hiding places. The water distribution network was actually a planet-wide defense grid. The grain silos that dotted the landscape began to open. Instead of grain, they contained fighter ships, sleek vessels that had been built on Earth and shipped to New Oregon. In secret, underground bunkers that the colonists had built for storm protection revealed their true purpose. Advanced weapons and shields rose from hidden positions. The peaceful farming world was actually one of the most heavily defended planets in the galaxy. Lieutenant Kelly Brown watched the transformation with amazement. "Sir, how long has this been here?" "Since the day we arrived," Ryan replied. "Every human colony has these defenses. We hoped we would never need them." The Vrakoth fleet entered orbit expecting to find a helpless farming world. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by weapons they had not detected from space. The humans had built their defenses using technology that Galactic Council sensors could not recognize. Commander Grex appeared on screen again. This time he was not smiling. "What is this?" "These weapons were not in our intelligence reports. You were warned," Ryan said simply. "Please withdraw your ships. This is your last chance," Grex snarled. "Tricks will not save you. We have 200 ships. Attack." The Vrakoth opened fire on the planet. Their weapons were designed to destroy cities and kill millions. But the shots never reached the ground. New Oregon's defense shields absorbed the energy and reflected it back into space. Then the humans responded. The missile launchers fired first. Hundreds of weapons streaked up from the planet's surface. The missiles were small, but they were incredibly fast and accurate. They struck the Vrakoth ships with precision that should have been impossible. The fighter ships launched from their hidden silos. Pilots who had been pretending to be farmers revealed their true skills. They were veterans of Earth's military, some of the best pilots humanity had ever produced. Captain Steve Mitchell climbed into his own fighter. The ship was painted to look like a crop duster, but it was actually an advanced combat vessel. Steve had designed it himself. "All right, people," Steve said over the communication system. "Let's show them why humans don't like to be bothered." The battle was over in 6 hours. The Vrakoth had expected to fight helpless farmers. Instead, they faced a military force that had been carefully planned and perfectly hidden. Every Vrakoth ship was destroyed or disabled. Not one raider escaped to report what had happened. The humans captured hundreds of Vrakoth prisoners and freed thousands of slaves that the raiders had been carrying. When the battle ended, New Oregon looked exactly the same as before. The wheat fields were undamaged. The farmhouses were untouched. The only sign of the fight was the wreckage of Vrakoth ships burning in space. The next day, investigators from the Galactic Council arrived. They wanted to know how a farming colony had defeated a major Vrakoth fleet. The human colonists welcomed them with fresh bread and vegetables. "We were just defending our crops," one farmer told the investigators. Those raiders were going to destroy our harvest. The investigators found the hidden weapons, but they could not understand how the humans had built them without being detected. The technology was advanced, but it was completely different from anything in the galactic databases. Admiral Lisa Parker arrived from Earth 3 days later. She met with the council investigators in New Oregon's town hall. The building looked like a simple community center, but it was actually a military command post. "The Galactic Council demands an explanation," the lead investigator said. "How did you hide these weapons? Why did you not report them?" Lisa smiled politely. "We followed all reporting requirements. We listed every defensive installation as required by the probationary treaties. The fact that your sensors could not detect them is not our fault." "But you destroyed an entire Vrakov fleet," the investigator protested. "New species are not supposed to have that kind of military capability." "We warned the Vrakov to leave peacefully," Lisa replied. "They chose to attack us instead. We defended ourselves." "Isn't that what any reasonable species would do?" The investigators returned to the Galactic Council with their report. The council was confused and worried. How had the humans hidden such advanced defenses? What other surprises might they have? But most of the galaxy dismissed the New Oregon incident as a lucky victory. The Vrakov were pirates, not a real military force. Surely the humans had just gotten lucky. Colonel Ryan Davis filed his own report to Earth Command. His final words became famous in human military history: "Mission accomplished." The Vrakov learned what happens when you ignore a human warning. Unfortunately, I don't think the rest of the galaxy was paying attention. News of the New Oregon incident spread across the galaxy within weeks. Most alien species had the same reaction. The humans had gotten lucky. The Vrakov were just pirates, not a real threat. Surely a primitive species like humanity could not defeat a serious military force. This attitude led to more tests. Different alien groups decided to see just how strong these humans really were. They all made the same mistake. They ignored the warnings. The Helios Consortium was a powerful trade organization that controlled commerce in 12 star systems. They had a simple way of dealing with new species: economic pressure. Make trade impossible until the newcomers begged for mercy. Director Zan of the Helios board called a meeting 6 months after New Oregon. The consortium's leadership gathered in their Crystal Palace on Helios Prime. Zan was confident as he spoke to the other directors. "The humans have shown they can fight pirates," Zan said. "But fighting and economics are different things. We will show them their place in the galactic order." The consortium imposed massive tariffs on all human goods. They blocked human ships from major trade routes. They pressured other species to stop buying human products. Within months, human trade dropped by 80%. The consortium expected the humans to come begging within weeks. New species always did. Economic warfare was clean and effective. Much better than military action. Dr. Amy Rodriguez sat in her office on Earth reading the latest trade reports. Amy was humanity's chief economist. She had spent 10 years studying galactic commerce. She knew exactly what the consortium was trying to do. Amy smiled as she activated her communication system. "Tony, are you ready?" Tony Williams was working in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps. He was officially a computer programmer. Unofficially, he was the architect of humanity's economic defense system. "Ready when you are, Amy," Tony replied. "Project Mirror is online and waiting for your command." Amy had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. She knew that economic attacks would come eventually. The galaxy always tested new species the same way. She was ready. "Execute Project Mirror," Amy commanded. Tony's fingers flew over his keyboard. Computer systems across human space began implementing a plan that would change galactic economics forever. The humans did not beg the consortium for mercy. Instead, they disappeared from galactic trade completely. Every human colony became totally self-sufficient within days. They stopped buying anything from alien sources, but that was just the beginning. Tony's computer systems began offering the same goods that the consortium sold, but at much lower prices. Human manufacturers could produce everything the consortium made and do it better. The humans also offered something new. A trading network that bypassed the traditional galactic commerce system entirely. Species that traded with humans got better deals and faster service than they had ever seen before. Within 3 months, the consortium's profits dropped by 60%. Their trade routes were empty. Their warehouses were full of goods nobody wanted to buy. Species across the galaxy were buying human products instead. Director Zan called another emergency meeting. This time he was not confident. The consortium was facing bankruptcy. How is this possible? Zan demanded. They are a new species. They should not have this kind of economic power. The truth was simple. Humans had been preparing for economic warfare since their first day in the galaxy. Every colony had been designed to be completely independent. Every trade agreement had backup plans. Every human product had been engineered to be better than the alien alternatives. Dr. Amy Rodriguez received a desperate communication from the consortium after 4 months of economic collapse. Director Zan appeared on her screen looking defeated. Dr. Rodriguez, Zan said, the Helios Consortium wishes to discuss new trade arrangements with humanity. Amy smiled politely. Of course, Director Zan. We always prefer cooperation to conflict. We tried to trade with you peacefully, but you chose economic warfare instead. Now you know the results. The consortium agreed to all of humanity's trade terms. They removed all tariffs and restrictions. They opened their trade routes to human ships. They had no choice. The alternative was complete economic collapse, but the galaxy's testing of humanity was far from over. The Nexus Intelligence Agency was a collection of the most advanced species in the galaxy. They considered themselves the real power behind the Galactic Council. The Nexus believed that information was the ultimate weapon. Agent Prime Vex studied the reports about human economic success. Vex was a master of intelligence work. He had toppled governments and controlled entire civilizations through careful manipulation of information. The humans are more dangerous than we thought, Vex reported to the Nexus Council. We need to understand their capabilities better. The Nexus began conducting surveillance operations against human colonies. They planted listening devices, hacked communication systems, and infiltrated human organizations. They were the best intelligence agency in the galaxy. No species had ever detected their operations. Commander Lisa Harper commanded humanity's small intelligence unit on Earth. Lisa was a quiet woman who preferred to work in shadows. Most people did not even know her unit existed, Lisa discovered. The Nexus surveillance within weeks. The aliens were good, but they made one mistake. They underestimated human paranoia. Humans had been spying on each other for thousands of years. They knew every trick, every method, every way to hide or find information. When the Nexus tried to spy on humanity, they were using techniques that humans had invented and improved long ago. Lisa called her team together in a secure facility beneath Washington, D.C. The room looked like any government office, but it was actually one of the most secure locations on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa said to her team of 12 agents, we have uninvited guests poking around our business. Time to return the favor. Lisa initiated Operation Mirror. Within days, every Nexus facility in human space was under complete human surveillance. Human agents began following Nexus operatives across dozens of star systems, but Lisa did not stop there. She began infiltrating Nexus operations throughout the galaxy. Human agents posed as maintenance workers, traders, and tourists. They planted their own listening devices and hacked Nexus computer systems. The Nexus had no idea they were being watched. Human intelligence techniques were completely different from anything in the galactic databases. The aliens could not detect methods they had never seen before. Lisa spent 6 months gathering information about Nexus operations. She learned about their agents, their methods, and their targets. She discovered which species they were manipulating and how they did it. Then she struck. Lisa released detailed reports about Nexus activities to every species they had been spying on. Governments across the galaxy suddenly learned that their most classified secrets were known to the Nexus. They discovered which of their officials were being blackmailed and which of their plans had been leaked. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Species that had been Nexus allies became enemies overnight. Nexus agents found themselves arrested or expelled from dozens of worlds. Their carefully maintained network of contacts collapsed within weeks. Agent Prime Vex found himself called before an emergency session of his own council. The Nexus leadership was furious and frightened. How did this happen? The council demanded. How did a primitive species completely destroy our intelligence network? Vex had no good answer. They seem to have techniques we have never encountered before. Our standard methods were completely ineffective against them. The Nexus tried to retaliate, but they discovered that their own operations were now completely transparent to human intelligence. Every move they made was anticipated. Every plan they developed was countered before they could implement it. Within 3 months, the Nexus withdrew from all operations in human space. They had been the galaxy's premier intelligence agency for centuries. Now they were afraid to operate anywhere humans might be watching. Commander Lisa Harper filed her report to Earth Command with satisfaction. Mission accomplished. The Nexus has learned that humans do not like being spied on. They will not make that mistake again. But the most important part of Lisa's report was her analysis of the pattern that was emerging. Every species that has tested us has followed the same approach, Lisa wrote. They dismiss our warnings as primitive bluffing. They attack us using methods that worked against other species. They discover that we are not like other species. Then they retreat and look for easier targets. Lisa's report identified the real problem. The galaxy was not learning from these incidents. Each species thought their situation was unique. They did not realize that humans had been preparing for every type of conflict since joining the galactic community. Colonel Jerry Martinez, now head of human military intelligence, read Lisa's report with growing concern. Jerry had been tracking alien attitudes toward humanity for 3 years. The pattern was clear and dangerous. They keep thinking we're bluffing, Jerry wrote in his own report to Earth Command. The Vreka thought we were defenseless farmers. The Consortium thought we were economically weak. The Nexus thought we were intelligence amateurs. They were all wrong, but they're not learning from each other's mistakes. Jerry's analysis identified the core problem. Each alien group saw humanity's victories as isolated incidents. The Zephyrian Empire had watched humanity's victories with growing alarm. For 200 years, the Zephyrians had been the strongest military force in the galaxy. Their crystal ships were the most advanced. Their weapons were the most powerful. Their armies had never been defeated. Emperor Valdris stood in his throne room on the capital world of Zephyria Prime. The room was carved from a single, massive crystal that glowed with inner light. Around him stood his military commanders, each one a veteran of countless victories. This human problem has gone too far, Valdris declared. His voice rang like crystal bells throughout the chamber. First they defeated pirates. Then they destroyed our allies in the Consortium. Now they have humiliated the Nexus. These primitives are becoming too dangerous. General Vex, commander of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet, stepped forward. His crystalline body reflected the light of the throne room like a prism. Your Imperial Majesty, we have 10,000 of the finest warships in the galaxy. The humans have perhaps 50 small vessels. We could crush them in a single battle. Emperor Valdris nodded slowly. Exactly. It is time to show the galaxy what happens to species that grow too bold. We will make an example of humanity that will be remembered for 1,000 years. The decision was made in the crystal halls of power, far from human space. The Zephyrian Empire would teach humanity its place in the galactic order. The announcement came 3 days later, on Earth. President Nancy Clark received the official communication in the Oval Office. She read the message twice to make sure she understood it correctly. Then she called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. General Karen Thompson arrived at the White House within an hour. Karen had been expecting this moment since humanity joined the galaxy. She entered the Situation Room to find the president and her advisors already assembled. They've made their choice, Nancy said, handing Karen the Zephyrian message. Emperor Valdris is annexing all human space. He claims we've become a threat to galactic stability. Karen read the message carefully. The terms were simple and brutal. All human colonies would become Zephyrian territory. All human ships would be destroyed or captured. All human leaders would be taken prisoner for trial as war criminals. How long do we have? Karen asked. The Zephyrian fleet is already moving, replied Admiral Jack Nelson, commander of Earth Space Forces. Our scouts report over 10,000 ships heading for our border systems. They'll reach New Oregon in 2 weeks. Nancy looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. These were people who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. The time for warnings was over. Recommendations? Nancy asked. General Thompson stood up and walked to the holographic display showing galactic space. Red dots marked the approaching Zephyrian fleet. Blue dots showed human positions. We give them one final warning, Karen said. Make it official. Make it public. Make sure every species in the galaxy hears it. Then we show them what humans do when talking fails. 2 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to watch what many expected to be humanity's surrender. The chamber buzzed with conversation as aliens discussed the coming end of the human experiment. General Karen Thompson entered the chamber wearing her dress uniform. She walked to the speaking platform with calm confidence. The room gradually fell silent as she prepared to address the galaxy. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Karen began. I am General Karen Thompson, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. I come before you today to deliver humanity's final statement on this matter. Emperor Valdris himself was present, his crystal form glowing with satisfaction. He expected to hear humanity beg for mercy or negotiate terms of surrender. For 3 years, Karen continued, humanity has tried to be a peaceful member of this galactic community. We have warned repeatedly that we prefer peace to war. We have shown restraint even when attacked. We have tried to resolve conflicts through diplomacy and cooperation. Some of the alien representatives shifted in their seats. They had heard about the various incidents, but most dismissed them as lucky victories against weak opponents. However, Karen said, and her voice grew harder, some members of this community have chosen to ignore our warnings. They have decided that humanity must be conquered rather than respected. Emperor Valdris stood up in his section of the chamber. General Thompson, the Zephyrian Empire offers you one final chance to surrender peacefully. Submit to imperial authority, and your species will be treated with appropriate mercy. Karen looked directly at the Emperor. Your Imperial Majesty, I am here to deliver humanity's response to your ultimatum. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien in the room leaned forward to hear humanity's final words. For the last time, Karen said clearly, we ask you to please not provoke us. We have tried to be peaceful neighbors. We have warned you repeatedly what happens when we are forced to fight. If you continue this course of action, if you force us to defend ourselves, you will not like the species we become. The reaction was immediate. Some aliens laughed. Others made dismissive gestures. Emperor Valdris himself made a sound like breaking glass that his species used for laughter. Empty threats from a dying species, Valdris declared. The Zephyrian fleet will demonstrate the price of defying the natural order. Karen nodded slowly. Then you have made your choice. Humanity offered peace. You chose war. What happens next is your responsibility, not ours. She turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. Behind her, the alien representatives buzzed with excitement. Most expected the human resistance to collapse within days. Back on Earth, Dr. Frank Miller received the coded message that General Thompson had delivered the final warning. Frank was the director of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative, a program that most humans did not know existed. Frank activated his secure communication system and sent a single message to every human colony, station, and ship in the galaxy. Implement Contingency Omega. This is not a drill. Across human space, people received the message and began implementing plans they had hoped never to use. Emergency protocols that had been practiced in secret for 3 years went into effect. Immediately on New Oregon, Colonel Ryan Davis gathered his staff for a final briefing. The Zephyrian fleet would arrive in the system within hours. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan said, this is what we've been preparing for since day one. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting to show the galaxy what happens when humans are pushed too far. In space near Earth, Captain Rachel Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. The ship looked like a standard diplomatic vessel, but appearances could be deceiving. Rachel was one of humanity's most experienced military commanders, disguised as a diplomatic captain. All stations report ready, her tactical officer announced. Good, Rachel replied. When the Zephyrians arrive, we'll be the only human ship. They can see. They'll think we're surrendering. That's exactly what we want them to think. Admiral Jack Nelson monitored the preparations from his command center deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. Displays showed the status of human forces throughout the galaxy. Everything was proceeding according to plan. How long until the Zephyrians reach Earth? Jack asked his aide. 48 hours, sir, came the reply. Jack nodded. Good, let them come. Let them see what they think is a helpless planet defended by a single ship. By the time they realize their mistake, it will be too late. On the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet, Emperor Valdris studied the tactical displays showing human space. His intelligence officers reported the same thing from every system. The humans appeared to be surrendering without a fight. Your Imperial Majesty, General Vex reported, human resistance is minimal. Most of their ships have withdrawn to defensive positions around their home world. They appear to be concentrating their forces for a final stand. Valdris was pleased. Excellent. We will crush their last hope at Earth itself. The galaxy will see that defying the Zephyrian Empire leads only to destruction. The Emperor did not know that human preparations were proceeding exactly as planned. Every Zephyrian ship was being tracked. Every movement was being analyzed. The approaching fleet was walking into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history. Dr. Frank Miller made final checks on systems that had been hidden for 3 years. Deep beneath Earth's surface, manufacturing facilities that appeared to be mining operations had been producing weapons and ships around the clock. The moon itself had been converted into a fortress that Zephyrian sensors could not detect. All systems green, Frank reported to General Thompson. We're ready to show them what human engineering can really do. Karen looked at the countdown timer on her command screen. 36 hours until the Zephyrian fleet reached Earth. 36 hours until the galaxy learned why humans had kept asking them not to be provoked. Send the final message to all human forces, Karen ordered. Operation Awakening begins on my signal. Make sure everyone understands. We're not fighting this war to win territory or gain power. We're fighting to show the galaxy what humans become when peace is no longer possible. The message went out to every human military unit in the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 10,000 warships spread out in perfect formation, their crystal hulls reflecting the light of Sol. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Emperor Valdris stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. Through the crystal walls, he could see the small blue planet that was humanity's home world. It looked peaceful and defenseless. Exactly what he had expected. "Scan the system," Valdris ordered. "Show me their pathetic defenses." General Vex studied the tactical displays. "Your Imperial Majesty, I detect minimal human activity. One ship in high orbit around their planet. A few defense satellites. No sign of their fleet." The Emperor smiled, showing crystal teeth. "They have already given up. This will be easier than I thought." On the bridge of the U-East Defiance, Captain Rachel Turner watched the Zephyrian fleet deploy. Her ship looked tiny compared to the massive alien vessels, but Rachel was not worried. She activated her communication system. "Unknown fleet, this is Captain Rachel Turner of the United Earthship Defiance. You are entering human space without permission. Please withdraw immediately." Emperor Valdris appeared on Rachel's main screen. His crystal form glowed with arrogance and power. "Captain Turner, I am Emperor Valdris of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." Rachel looked calmly at the alien ruler. "Your Imperial Majesty, this is humanity's final warning. Please withdraw your forces and return to your space. We are asking you nicely." Valdris made the crystal sound that passed for laughter among his species. "You have one small ship against my 10,000. Your threats are meaningless." "Then you have made your choice," Rachel replied. "What happens next is not our fault." She closed the communication channel and activated a secure frequency. "All stations, this is Defiance. The Emperor has refused our final warning. Execute Operation Awakening." Across the solar system, humanity's true defenses came online. The sun itself began to change. What the Zephyrians thought was a normal star revealed hidden structures. Massive arrays of weapons emerged from solar collection stations that had been disguised as research facilities. Dr. Frank Miller had spent 3 years turning Earth's sun into the ultimate fortress. Earth's moon cracked open like an egg. The entire satellite was hollow, filled with manufacturing facilities and weapons systems. Hundreds of battleships poured out of the lunar interior, ships that had been built in secret and hidden from all alien sensors. But the real surprise was the human fleet itself. What appeared to be one small diplomatic vessel suddenly became 50,000 warships as cloaking systems. Deactivated throughout the solar system, Dr. Maria Santos had perfected stealth technology that made entire fleets invisible to galactic sensors. Admiral Jack Nelson spoke from his command ship, the UES Retribution. "Emperor Valdris, you were warned repeatedly. Humanity offered you peace. You chose war. Now you will learn what humans become when peace is no longer possible." The Zephyrian fleet found itself surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Their tactical displays showed impossible numbers. Somehow, the primitive humans had hidden a fleet larger than their own. "This is impossible," General Vex reported to his emperor. "Our intelligence said they had only 50 ships. There are tens of thousands of them." Emperor Valdris stared at the tactical displays in shock. Where did they come from? How did they hide so many ships? The answer was simple. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since their first day in the galaxy. Every colony, every trade mission, every diplomatic contact had been part of a vast deception. The humans had never shown their true strength to anyone. Captain Steve Mitchell launched from the moon in his fighter squadron. Steve had spent 3 years pretending to be a farmer on New Oregon. In reality, he was one of Earth's best military pilots. His squadron was composed entirely of veterans who had been hiding throughout human space. "All right, people," Steve announced to his pilots. "Time to show them what humans do when we stop being nice." The battle began with a demonstration that shocked the galaxy. Human weapons were not just advanced, they were completely different from anything in galactic databases. While alien species had spent centuries perfecting the same basic technologies, humans had developed entirely new approaches to warfare. The Zephyrian ships fired their crystal beam weapons, expecting to destroy the human fleet quickly. Instead, their shots were absorbed by human shields that converted energy attacks into power for the defending ships. The more the Zephyrians shot, the stronger the human defenses became. Human missiles moved in ways that should have been impossible. They curved around obstacles, worked together in coordinated swarms, and struck their targets with perfect accuracy. Each missile carried artificial intelligence that made it smarter than most alien starship computers. But the most terrifying thing about the human fleet was how efficiently it operated. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary destruction. Every shot was calculated. Every maneuver was planned. The humans fought like a single organism with 50,000 parts. Emperor Valdris tried to rally his forces. "All ships, concentrate fire on their command vessel. Destroy their leadership." The Zephyrian fleet focused their attacks on Admiral Nelson's flagship. Thousands of crystal beams struck the Retribution simultaneously. The ship should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, the Retribution's shields absorbed the energy and reflected it back at the attacking ships. The reflected beams struck a dozen Zephyrian vessels, destroying them with their own weapons. Admiral Nelson's voice carried across all frequencies. "You still don't understand. Humans don't fight to prove we're strong. We don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight to win. And when humans fight to win, we don't stop until our enemies can never threaten us again." The battle continued for 4 hours. It was not really a battle, it was a demonstration. The human fleet systematically destroyed or captured every Zephyrian ship. They did it methodically, efficiently, without anger or hatred. They fought the way humans had always fought when their survival was threatened. Emperor Valdris found himself trapped on his damaged flagship, surrounded by human ships. His mighty fleet was gone. His Crystal Empire's greatest military force had been destroyed by the species he had thought was primitive. Captain Rachel Turner contacted the Emperor one final time. "Your Imperial Majesty, your ship is disabled and your fleet is destroyed. Do you surrender?" Valdris looked at the wreckage of his once mighty armada floating in space. How did you defeat us so easily?" "We tried to tell you," Rachel replied. "Humans prefer peace to war. But when we are forced to fight, we fight to win completely. You chose not to listen to our warnings." The news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace communication. Every species learned the same shocking truth. The humans had not been weak. They had been holding back. President Nancy Clark addressed the Galactic Council from the White House. Her speech was broadcast to every world in known space. Behind her stood the captured Emperor Valdris and dozens of other alien prisoners representing every species that had tested humanity. "For 3 years," Nancy said, "we asked you politely not to provoke us. We warned you what would happen if you forced us to fight. We tried to be peaceful neighbors and equal partners." She gestured to the alien prisoners. These beings chose not to listen. They decided that humanity needed to be conquered or controlled. They learned too late what we tried to tell them from the beginning. Nancy's voice grew harder. "We are not your enemies, but we will no longer pretend to be weak to make you comfortable. Humanity is claiming our rightful place in this galaxy. You can work with us as equals, or you can join these prisoners in reflecting on your choices." The Galactic Council voted unanimously to accept humanity as a full member with all rights and privileges. They also voted to establish the Human Protection Zone, a region of space where no military actions would be permitted without human approval. 6 months later, Admiral Lisa Parker opened the first meeting of the new Galactic Security Council. Representatives from every major species sat around a table designed by human engineers. The room was on a space station orbiting Earth. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings," Lisa began, "we are here to discuss the new reality. Humanity is no longer a junior species requesting permission to exist. We are a galactic power that demands respect." The alien representatives nodded respectfully. They had all learned the lesson that the Zephyrians learned too late. Colonel Ryan Davis submitted his final report to Earth Command from his office on New Oregon. The farming world continued to grow food for the galaxy, but now everyone knew what lay hidden beneath the wheat fields. "Mission accomplished," Ryan wrote. "The galaxy has learned why humans kept saying, 'Please don't provoke us.' It was never because we were weak. It was because we were trying to be kind." Dr. Susan Clark updated her biological report for the Galactic Archives. Her new entry became required reading for all alien species studying human nature. "Humanity's greatest strength was never their technology or their tactics," Susan wrote. "It was their sincere desire to avoid becoming the monsters they are capable of being. The universe chose to make that impossible. Now everyone lives with the consequences."